Welcome back, guys, to my channel, and today's video we're gonna see a game between this game was played between Fabiano Caruana, former US. He was the champion. I believe he was the US champion. I believe for I think maybe the three-time US champion. And also we got Nepo, who was the previous World Chess Championship challenger. And if you remember correctly, they played like in the candidates, and Fabiano in that fateful game, if Fabiano managed to win that game, he was gonna bring it to tie breaks potentially, because I believe Gukesh drew with Hikaru, which means if Fabiano won that game against Nepo, he was gonna take it into tie breaks, and he could have potentially been the one challenging Ding for the throne in November. But we all know what happened. Even though Nepo was in some serious trouble, and Fabiano, he gave away a lot of chances to Nepo. So many lives were given to Nepo, and Nepo eventually managed to salvage a draw. And so Fabiano is back in the Sinquefield Cup, and looks like he has some revenge. He got some revenge on his mind, So let's see the game. So I believe this is round 6. Fabiano is black and Ian is white. Ian opens with e4, best by test, like Fisher said, and Fabiano goes for the Sicilian defense. This is one of the most combative. Fabiano says that he wants to win, and he goes with c5, develops the knight on f3, and Fabiano prepares to fianchetto the bishop on this long diagonal. This is gonna be a dragon right here, like sniping all the way down there. And so he strikes in the center. You always want to control the center. Whoever controls the center typically has a good advantage. So Fabiano, what is he gonna do? Fabiano takes. He's like, if you're gonna take control of the center, let me contest it. I'm gonna remove one of your pieces out. So he recaptures, and he develops that bishop, that squared bishop on that nice diagonal. And Ian Opiniachi develops the knight. It's early game, so everybody's trying to get their pieces out. And the bishop goes on e3. The knight goes on f6. The bishop goes on this nice diagonal, potentially sniping on that f7 pawn right there. And he just decides to castle right there. The bishop drops back, and he goes d6. It's a nice solid move. Like, you want to get that bishop out. The bishop looks walled in. He looks walled in. And he plays f3. Okay. Now, this is not a bad move in this position, just because it's going to take several moves for the queen to get there. And potentially, he might even castle that way. So if this knight moves, that's fine. Queen can go there, and the king can just castle. The king can long castle on the queen side. So Fabiano anticipates that is most likely what's gonna happen, just because he played f3. He could castle on the king side, but you've weakened, this square and also this square. There's only one pawn defending it, and this diagonal is very, very exposed. So Fabiano is like, okay, it looks like this guy's gonna castle on the other side. Let me start getting the troops on that side of the board, man. We gotta prepare for war right here, man. So Nepo is about to castle. He's like, okay, let's prepare to castle. Fabiano centralizes the knight. He goes back with the queen. The queen was attacked, and Fabiano finishes his development, and Nepo decides to castle. So the engine says it's 0.3. It's saying that white is slightly better. And I'm guessing it's because white just has more of his pieces in the center. This rook is in the center, and as well as these pieces right here. And also these are in the center, but these rooks are like in the starting squares. That's why I believe the engine is giving like a small advantage to the white pieces. So he lines it up. This is a good move right here. Rooks belongs on open files. And so the king sidesteps. You don't wanna stay in those pin. There's gonna be all sorts of tactics available in the future. And Fabiano presses forward by knight to c4, attacking the queen. He might even decide to take the bishop, and he's gonna have the bishop here, which at the super GM level, it can be a decisive advantage in a lot of cases. So he can take that bishop if he wants. Okay, he's gonna win the light square. So he was most likely gonna win one of the bishops, and he just recaptures. Looks like Nepo is not gonna sit. It's opposite sides castling. He wants to attack with all these pawns, bring the rooks right there, bring the queen, and checkmate the black king. Black also potentially wants to move these pawns, but the queen is in the way. So since the queen is in the way, those pawns might take some. You want your pawns to lead the attack, kind of like what Nepo has. The pawns need to be the ones leading the attack. So Fabiano might need to reorganize a little bit. So what does Fabi do? He just ignores it. He just centralizes this bishop on this diagonal. There might be some tactics in the future. And seeing that, Nepo decides to bring that knight back, because he's like, the bishop is seeing here, the queen is seeing here, let me disconnect that. Now the bishop is only seeing the b3 instead of the a2 square. So the engine is saying it's an accuracy, but I would say it's a decent move. And so the bishop goes there. He centralizes the other rook. This rook was on that corner for the longest time doing nothing, so he goes on to the only open, the only open. The other one is like, this is like semi-closed. So, and Nepo is that type of player. He's gonna try to attack, and in this position, Fabi, he decides to channel his inner Mikhail Tao, and he decides to sacrifice the knight. That is a hanging knight. It's a hanging knight, but the computer gives it a brilliant move. You'll see why. You're gonna see why it's a brilliant move. So the knight, that knight has been sent off. It's it's a free piece. Who doesn't like free stuff? So he's gonna take that knight, man. Like, it's free stuff, man. Everybody loves free stuff, man. So he trades. He's down a piece, but Fabiano decides to trade. So he recaptures. Nepo is probably thinking, hey man, you are down like your manpower. I got like more men, bro. You're outnumbered, bro. Like, you are losing, bro. Fabi decides to sacrifice another piece. This time it's the rook, and you cannot take, because check, king c1, mate on a1. King has nowhere to go, because this pawn, even if this pawn was not here, it's because of the queen. This rook is like sniping, so you cannot take. So he plays a3. Now you can somewhat take, but it's so ill-advised. So Fabian is like, yeah, hey man, go ahead and take. it doesn't matter which piece you take because your king is so weak. So that's another brilliant move because the rook is hanging. And he's like, hey man, okay, yeah, this diagonal is weak. Let me try to clog that up. So Fabiano just attacks this weak pawn. And he just gives it up. Nepo's like, okay, you can take that pawn. I'm gonna try to defend my c2 pawn right there. And Fabiano is like, okay, I'm gonna take, I gave you a free knight. Now I'm gonna take it for a free pawn. Okay, I guess that's a nice trade. You take my knight and I take one of your little guys. So Nepo is like, okay, looks like everything is fine. Let me try to attack the black king. But in all honesty, white has almost zero counterplay just because the king is the black king is like pretty much safe. The only thing that you can try is probably to take here and open up lines, but you are giving up a defender of the king. There's only like 2 defenders and like 4 attackers here. So even though you can trade, it's gonna be somewhat of it's gonna be ill-advised. So in this position, Fabiano Caruana channels his inner Mikao and takes b3, the knight and the bishop. The knight and the bishop. And in this position, Nepo's like, okay, I'm gonna report you for bullying, bro. Like, what type of play is this, man? So you really cannot take this in any way, because if you do, I'm gonna take it. Like, it doesn't matter if you take here with the knight. If you take with the knight, I can even like move my rook there. And okay, if you take the knight, that's not gonna work. I can go with the rook there, but I can even take here. I can even take there. But the point is, this thing is so weak. Like, it's so weak. If you take with the pawn, well, you're gonna get quickly checkmated. I can even go there, in all honesty. I can even go there. I can also go there, you know, just because the king is so weak. And I'm threatening all sorts of things. I'm threatening to take and then take. The king is in check, has nowhere to go, you're gonna have to block. So there's all sorts of tactics against the black king, and there's gonna be more like 1 or 2 sacrifices, and white is like defenseless, you know. White is defenseless, and this is like a sample line that can happen. So like after you play that, I mean, you can try to take, and he can even take here, or better yet, I believe the simplest is, yeah, you can just take and you can take, and I believe, let's see here, yeah, you can even take right there, but yeah, you can even take, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, this is like one sample line. You can try to go there, and I'm gonna take right there, and you're gonna have to go like right there, and this rook is the killer. Capish? You're gonna have to give up your queen, and this, I believe there might be like a forced win here, some type of forced win, like maybe you can even go there, and he goes there, push, he has nowhere to go, and push. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll end it there.